Welcome to this segment of Meet a Columban. I'm Father Jim Mulroney and I am your host. And my guest today is Father Jovito Dales, who comes from the Philippines. He was ordained in 2007, and shortly after his ordination, he went to work in Peru. So Jovito, welcome to Meet a Columban. And we'd like to begin if you could tell us something about what type of work you did while you were in Peru.
Thank you for this opportunity, Jim. While I was in Peru, I worked in a parish called Cristo Liberador with one of the Columban priests who have been there for many years, Father Jerry Desmond. And part of my work is with the youth and also with the old folks in the parish.
Now, what type of parish was it, Jovito? What type of housing did the people live in? What type of environment did they live in? Was it a middle-class area, a poorer area?
Okay, Jim, it's basically a poor area. It's in the middle of shanty towns, and the houses, the walls are made of plywoods. And because it doesn't rain much in that place, so people don't really bother to have roof. So they don't care much about having a nice roof to protect them from rain or the extreme sunlight.
Now, that's quite a contrast to the land that you come from, where it rains a lot.
Yeah, that's why we have to have a solid roof.
Yeah, and when it rains heavily.
It does,
And
and it can even cause floods.
did you find the living conditions in the parish you went to in the shanty town in Peru radically different from areas of the Philippines where you may have worked or where you've been brought up?
There is also extreme poverty in the Philippines, but the place where I worked in Peru, I would say if that area in the Philippines was poor, this one is really poorer because there is a limited supply of water. So people can only have water if there's truckloads of water brought to their place from time to time, and they have to store it in a barrel, cover it with something hard, and that would be their water for everything, from cooking food to taking a bath and recycling the water to water their plants.
So how did they access food? Was there employment in this area or limited employment? Or do they have to travel somewhere to work and maybe spend a long time during the day commuting?
That's basically the things that they're doing, Jim. They commute longer time to reach their working place. But a lot of the people in the parish are kind of self-employed. So they have little stores in the supermarket, but just enough, I think, to have food for their table on the daily basis and enough for the education of their kids.
And what type of education do their children receive? Do they go to school or the schools, do they go to second-rate schools or good schools? Or
They go to public schools, and once they reach college, they have to take entrance tests to the universities. And the number of students accepted in the universities, like in government universities, are very limited. So basically, most of them have to wait for years in order for them to enter into universities. And if they're lucky enough, then they can have that good education.
now, in the parish, approximately how many people would have lived in this parish where you were? Roughly what would the population be?
Oh, the population would be about like 30 to 40,000 in that area.
And how many of those people would have come to Mass at least occasionally?
Oh,
Maybe barring Christmas and Easter when many people come, but on a semi-regular basis anyway.
on a regular basis, there will be about 100 people in the church, and if it's a chapel, it will be about 30 people regularly attending the masses.
So that's very few out of 30 or 40,000. So what role does the priest play in that parish? Do you have contact with the people that don't come to the church, or is the contact made through those that do come? Or is there any contact?
Yes, there will be contacts more for the people in terms of the programs of the parish, like reaching out to the youth when they organize a sports fest or have some cultural shows or have some talks about the the problems that the youth are facing in the society. So in those ways, we we who work in the parish have the opportunity to reach out to them, and basically they are religious in their own sense, but attending the church regularly is not one of the things that they do in the parish. But a lot of them are also very good in helping out the parish as volunteers in different projects and programs.
Now, you mentioned there several types of programs that you run in this parish. There, you talked about sports fests, education. What what kind of sport are the young Peruvian people interested in?
Oh, they're very much interested in football.
By football, I think you mean soccer, right?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
in this
soccer.
part of the world,
That's
soccer
right.
is soccer,
And volleyball.
and
Those are the
volleyball.
two
Right?
main sports that usually young are very interested in.
Yeah. And what about education? What kind of education programs did you run?
Oh, sometimes we have these tutorials for those who are kind of having difficulty in their schools. So some of the youth would volunteer to have tutorial classes for these kids. So they would organize schedules for particular days and help out the kids in their assignments and teach them something in relation to the subjects that they find difficult in the school. So most of the time, the volunteers are also these youth who have, uh, in a way, have good education already and have been very interested in helping out those who are left behind in education in the parish.
If you cannot graduate from high school, what avenues of making a living or what type of a life is available to people like that?
Well, that would be very difficult for some. If they can find a job, they would probably move out to the city and try to venture and find opportunities. And some of them actually left Peru to some parts of Europe to find opportunities to work and help other families if they could, and if they could find a job there.
Is this traveling like as a migrant worker,
That's it.
like paying somebody to arrange a contract and becoming like an indentured type of worker on a fixed contract for 3 years or 4 years?
Yes, that would be that kind of job that they have, Jim. In well, I knew one from a family that I lived for a year there. He went to Spain, and well, he found his wife there. They married, but then it was very difficult for him to go back to Peru because he knew that he would not find any opportunity there. So I think until now, he's still living in Spain. So most of them who left Peru and found a good job in the other country would prefer to just stay there. and help out their families if they could in some ways.
Now, in this parish, do many people succeed in life? Do they succeed in getting a decent job in Peru, in settling in Peru, and having medical facilities, for example, available to them? Or are there any kind of social services offered to people in
There are,
where you
and they
work?
have some hospitals, clinics. But when I was there, the problem was really the medicines. So a lot of, especially young ones, the infants, the children, during winter, a lot of them would suffer from tuberculosis. And I knew when I was there that babies would succumb to tuberculosis and die because of lack of medicines, and parents just don't know what to do.
Now, Jovito, you went to Peru as a foreigner. It was an environment that you probably surprised you in many ways. Do you remember what were the things that really surprised you when you first arrived in Lima?
The first thing was their houses. They're very close to each other, that there's almost no space, uh, to walk in between the houses, and the dryness of the place. And then it's just the poverty, really. I know I came from a poor country, but when I was there in that parish, when they don't have water, uh, to even toilets, it's difficult for them to have one for each family. So it really kind of, it was very disturbing the first time I arrived there, and kind of asking myself, what can a person like me do for them at that time? And it's it's just mind blowing for me how these people were able to survive day by day and uh, trying to make a living. It's basically, when I was there at the beginning, I saw it as basically surviving day by day. But then later on, of course, my perception had changed.
During the time that you were working in that parish, did you ever feel a sense of hope that things may improve, or general livelihood of people in the area may improve, or that the church could contribute some kind of positive dynamic to the community that could give people a sense of hope that the future may just be a little bit better than the past?
Yes, that's my sense towards the end of my time there in Peru, Jim. I got that sense of hope from the people first because of their faith, their simple but very deep faith in God. Another thing that gave me hope was the church is also was also on their side in terms of fighting for their rights. Uh, they rallied behind the people, and the people were very participative in terms of claiming what's owed to them by the government. And so in terms of that, I found that sense of hope. There was solidarity that I felt when I was in the parish, and partly the church was a big factor at that time. And I think until now, the church is trying to motivate the people to claim their rights that are somehow suppressed sometimes by the corruption of the government in the place.
There's been a lot of upset in Peru. There have been big demonstrations in the capital city, Lima, and fundamentally, much of this seems to be about corruption in government, corruption in administration, corruption in public service. And it must be quite difficult for people in those situations. Like someone said to me one time, it doesn't really matter what you achieve, what you build up, something or someone will destroy it. And that's an environment where it's extremely difficult, I think, to generate hope. And as you said, many derive their hope from the dream that maybe one day they'll be able to leave that environment, go to another country and get a job and do something better. But when the only source of hope is the dream that maybe you can get away, life is extremely difficult.
It is.
And it must have been extremely difficult, I think, to talk to that type of environment, people in that kind of environment.
Yes, it's for me. It's kind of an ongoing struggle of the people to really have a better life for them and also for the generations to come. But I admire, I think, what they call it, the tenacity or the resilience of the people in terms of doing what they could to fight for what they believe is right and just for them. But I saw it as I look back and looking at what's happening now. It's really a constant struggle, and probably looking at them, I myself would kind of get tired because of the constancy of the struggle. But when I looked at them also, it somehow it gives me hope, because there are those people who are very much committed into doing it, and despite the difficulty, continue doing what they believe is right. So I think for me that's
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jovito, for your time today. And thank you for giving us that insight into where and how people can derive hope, even in some of the most desperate of situations. So thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Jim, and God bless you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.